Hey, so today we're doing a live, and I'm going to wait for Jeanette to join me, but our live is all about C-section recovery. Okay, there we go. Oh, I figured it out. How's it going?
How's it going, Ashley?
Let me turn up my volume. Okay, I'm hiding in my bedroom.
So am I.
Oh, you are too. Good. Okay, most awesome spot for a live, but nobody will find me in here.
Oh, see, that's good tactics. It's spring break for us here in Toronto. So it's like, you know,
Yeah, we have spring.
Netflix is taking care of my daughter right now. God bless
I was just telling everybody we're hopping on today to talk about C-section recovery. It's C-section Awareness Month. This is obviously, those of you who know me, a very important topic to me because I've had two C-sections, and I'm going to share some of my own anecdotal stories. We're going to go over some scar massage, how it can affect your athletic endeavors, and really I want to start by saying this. I think it's such a common surgery that everybody's like, oh, it's just a C-section. But there really are some implications. And most of us leave the hospital and we're just told, even at our 6-week checkup, that, oh, it's fine. Nothing to do here. But there really are ways to be proactive. So I think that's what we mostly want to touch on today. So do you mind introducing yourself to everybody and just talking a little bit about your background?
For sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Jeanette, all the way from Toronto, Canada. Here in our COVID lockdown, I work as a perinatal therapist, mostly virtually because of the lockdown in the past year. And so specifically, I work with athletes during their pregnancies to keep them active and injury-free, but then help them through the rehabilitation of childbirth, which is an injury, let's face it, childbirth injury to rehabilitate back to sport performance. So that can be either recreational sport performance all the way to elite sport performance. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. My background training is in athletic therapy. Ashley, I know you were asking me, Jeanette, are you a pelvic floor physiotherapist as well? So the answer is no, but a lot of us who work with the perinatal community are pelvic floor informed, meaning you can absolutely, like yourself, address pelvic floor health and not do it internally.
Right. Okay, so I opened it up to questions, and let me just tell you, we had so many questions.
Really?
A lot of the questions I get regularly too, so I'm really excited to jump in and
Right.
touch the topic. The first thing I wanted to talk about is, can we go over why scar massage has some benefits? Because this is speaking from my own heart. It is
Yes.
just like those, like when you tell us like you need to we're like most of us can't even stomach it. And I think there's an emotional component to that. I also think there's a physical component to that, and it's kind of blending these two worlds, and we're like, oh God, please don't make us do it. So
Yeah.
sometimes when I explain the why behind it, I think it helps a lot. So if you could explain the why it's so important, and maybe like some of what you see in your clinic as it relates to C-section scarring.
For sure. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody who did share your questions and your your experiences. I didn't have a chance to look at them myself, but Ashley, when we open up the floor for discussion in the first place, I think that is the first step to healing. And yes, although I am a manual therapist, I take tissues and I manipulate the tissues. Ashley, we're talking about how important it is, not just from a physical standpoint, but from a mental and emotional health standpoint, to be able to touch our incisions, because literally when you can, it indicates a level of not even just tolerance, but acceptance of that experience. And that is, I gotta say, probably it is the first step, but it's the hardest step. It is absolutely the hardest step. So to any C-birth mamas out there that are listening, to any pregnant mamas who are listening, because we don't know how the baby's going to come out, I hear you and I see you. There's a lot to C-birth recovery that we just can't ignore. So to answer your specific question though, so from a physical rehabilitation standpoint, the research is coming out about what happens with cesarean birth and what happens with the scar tissue and the fascial adhesions that can occur. And for anyone who's listening, fascial adhesions is just a fancy word to describe when the connective tissue in your body gets stuck together. And this is a process, right? Things aren't stuck together immediately after surgery. So there's a period of time where you want things to get stuck together. However, there may be implications going forward that if things that are stuck together that shouldn't be stuck together, it can cause some of the following things I'm about to list. The most common is chronic pain, right? Chronic pain, even more specifically in the abdominal region to varying degrees. It can be linked to lower back pain. It can be linked to pelvic floor dysfunction. That's kind of a did you know? I think a lot of my athletes that I work with are like, wait, what? I have painful sex and you're mobilizing my scar and now it's not painful anymore? Like, yes, it's actually completely the same tissue.
Yeah.
Other things by research that I only learned about because I read the research is, did you know additional scar tissue that goes right down? Let's just back it up. There's 3 incisions, everybody. When you have a cesarean birth, it goes right through, not just your skin level surface, right through your abdominal cavity, through an organ called the uterus. So other potential implications of having scar tissues and adhesions can be, it can impact your fertility. So that's by research. I found that to be very eye-opening.
I can share an story really quickly. I went through fertility with my twins, and the first embryo transfer that we did, my first C-section had caused my uterus to be pulled so far left, he could not get the, I forget what that little thing is called, the little, whatever, the little syringe type into cervix. And I didn't get pregnant that time because I had bleeding. It caused bleeding. So I couldn't, it absolutely impacted even going through fertility treatments. And that's not why we were there. We weren't there. I was there for, not because of my C-section scar, but the C-section scar did impact it on the female side. So.
Absolutely. That's so interesting you're sharing that. Let me share a story with all of you as well. I worked with an athlete last year that went through her 4th cesarean birth, her 4th. But in order to get pregnant with her 4th baby, she actually had to have a procedure that cleared out the scar tissue inside her uterus, because anything that's scar tissue is non-implantation material. It's not endometrial lining. It's actually, it's nothing. It is something. It holds together the uterus wall that's been cut open, but it's non-implantation material. So what's interesting is physical rehabilitation can impact how sticky things are. It's not going to impact inside your uterus. So I just want to put that out there. But what other things can it cause? Did you know? So the adhesions in the abdominal area, well, you've got other organs there, like your digestive system. So adhesions can actually have implications on your digestion. So specifically, and then you've got your intestines, right? Who after pregnancy was like, I don't have regular bowel movements anymore. There's a lot of reasons why we may not, such as kids coming into the bathroom all the time when you need to like be alone. But from just a adhesion standpoint, did you know adhesions can prevent organs from doing the movement it needs to do? It's called motility. So if your intestines can't squeeze your poop through the tube, it's gonna, it's not going to be ideal on your ability to absorb nutrients, for example. Perhaps, I mean, again, I'm not the researcher. I'm just telling you the research that's out there. But still, it could slow down the movement. It could quicken up the movement. The point is, it can have impact on a lot of other systems other than just your musculoskeletal. People often think, oh, muscles cut, so I'm going to have muscle pain. I get that. I'm going to have weakness. But it can be more than that. So that's why fascial mobility and scar work can be very important.
Right. And painful sex, I know, as we talked about, is so common. I had a participant doing the SLAM program recently, and she was doing some manual therapy. She's a massage therapist herself. And anyway, she's like, I couldn't believe after I started working on my scar, like finally I had pain-free sex. So just a lot of these side effects, if you will, that linger years and years and years down the road. The other one I've heard a lot, and we got a lot of questions on, was hip pain. Women wanted to know, could it be impacting hip pain that they're feeling, or pain, referral pain, I guess, in other areas of their body?
Oh yeah. Here, I'm going to draw you guys a picture. I'm going to show you how it's all connected. I'm going to show you. Okay, so I had 2 babies. They're both by vaginal birth, but I'm going to use my washable marker and draw my incision. Okay, Ashley, can you see this?
See my pubic hair.
So with that in mind, I'm just going to draw mine a little higher up than I usually.
Higher? Yeah.
Caveat. usually is higher than it usually will be. Can you see my abdominals, Ashley? I can't really see the lighting here. Is this good?
You're good.
Okay. So as I said, you know, the incision, the external incision is one of 3 incisions. This incision cuts through your skin and your fat layer, but stops at your abdominals. And then what happens is, okay, so skin and fat, that's connective tissue. So for anybody who's listening, what is connective tissue? Well, it's a sheet. It's a sheet. And actually, like, if you talk about your skin as connective tissue, you know, your abdominal skin is connected to your chest skin. It's attached to your neck skin, right? And then your abdominal tissue is connected to your skin down here to your pubic bone, but then is continuous between your legs. So superficially, it's the same skin as, let's say, your labia, right? Now, that's not the only incision. So right after that gets resected on the surgical table, what happens is there's an incision that goes down this way. So that's right down your linea alba, right? So that's what takes your 6-pack and separates it into left and right sides. So that's connective tissue, but that's deeper connective tissue. Now that deeper connective tissue that directly is linked to your pelvic floor. So if I were to here to show you like an anatomy, like a side view, you would see that this is actually linked with the muscles and the tissues of your superficial pelvic floor. And these muscles and tissues have strictly pleasure function. Like it's not even like, I shouldn't say strictly. One of the muscles helps you pee out your last drops of pee, for example. But you've got other tissues the muscles are solely responsible for pleasure. They engorge with blood, for example, during excitation, right? So the vulva expands and allows for penetration comfortably. There are glands in the area of the superficial tissues, right? And those glands lubricate the vagina. And there's a whole bunch of other structures in there. So, you know, we're talking about painful sex. By the way, I always say to my athletes, sex is different for everybody, okay? It could be partnered sex, it could be solo sex, it can be what's known as PIV sex, right? Penis in vagina sex, but it could be so many different permutations. So I'm not here to tell you what sex is right or wrong. I'm here to say with sexual activity, it can be uncomfortable, it can be foreign, it can be painful, it can be just not what it used to be because of the incision here. So this closes down, thank goodness, by the amazing human body that has its own super glue. So these incisions close down, and I'm not even including the uterus just yet, but the incisions close down with scar tissue, and that scar tissue does this. So those incisions never open again. But if you, even anybody, just try this. If you took your own abdominal tissue, anyone who's listening, and you just bunch it up here and you pull it, like, don't you feel it pulling down here? Do you feel it pulling kind of up here? Well, it actually does that, and it pulls all the way between your legs. So then the tissue between your legs, your pelvic floor, is a little bit more taut. Well, it could squish all the organs and the structures I was talking about, right? And if they're not functioning optimally, you could have decreased lubrication, right? You may be excited and wanting to have sex, but literally it's too tight. It's too tight, right? Kind of warms up. And I hear this often. It could warm up. You could feel a little better. Okay, then it's good. Then it's good. But it's not the same. And the question is, oh, why? Sometimes you can mobilize the tissues right here to make a huge difference here between your legs. So, and that can happen even months, years down the road, by the way. So right. That's one big thing we talk about.
What I always describe, and I experience since being a C-section mom, like sometimes I'll stand quickly and you feel like a sharp pulling. Like you can feel that pulling sensation in your body. And it's almost like you tucked in a shirt really tight. Yeah. And when you have that shirt tucked in tightly, you know, so you've got your shirt tucked and then you go to lift your arm, well, you're going to feel that pull on your hip. You're going to feel that pull in your shoulder. You're not going to have as great of a, so not even just sex. I mean, shoot, like any athletic endeavor we're doing, and I know we're around that, but any athletic endeavor, you've got this pulling down when you're trying to pull up.
Yes, absolutely.
So, mobility, I mean, so many areas.
Well, you even mentioned yourself that with your particular experience, you had direct implication on your left hip and its ability to move, right? And that was from like internal stuff. And did you go through some treatments, and did that have positive impact?
Self-massage has helped a lot. It's still a work in progress, and I'm 7 years postpartum. And part of it was I didn't work on it for, I didn't know, which is largely why I switched career. I'm like, women need educated on this stuff. How is nobody telling us these things? Yeah. I didn't know. So I definitely didn't do anything after my firstborn. I didn't know. And then after the twins, I didn't know until it was about 6 months postpartum. And then just the idea of it just grossed me out. And I had baby twins, and how could I have time to do it? I didn't really understand the full benefit, I guess, which is now I'm like, hey, everybody, massage your scores.
And thank goodness. And thank goodness, Ashley, really in the spirit of Cesarean Awareness Month, because that's what April is. I mean, for anybody who's listening, this is why Ashley has invited me onto this platform. This is literally, we have to spread the word about education, about things. I think a lot of mothers don't know that they can actually do quite a bit for themselves and to help themselves. And let's face it, in a pandemic, you may not feel comfortable going to see a therapist, even if you knew that was an option. You may want to see a therapist, but you can't find one in your area. You may want to see a therapist, but it's out of your price point, or it's just physically impossible because you've got a baby in tow, and with the pandemic, you don't have another support network to watch the kids while you go. There's so many reasons. So anybody who's listening, literally take this video after we're done and spread the news. Literally educate as many pregnant mamas as possible, but also see birth mamas and their support people, right? This would be a fantastic thing.
I'm just going to say that. I love that you call it C-birth. And somebody the other day when I posted about my birth story called it an abdominal birth. And I'm like, I love that we're putting the word birth back in it. Like, hallelujah. Like, instead of
nice.
C-section, like it's a birth, So I love it. I love to use that.
Yes. You know what, Ashley, you were bringing something up that I would love to address. You were saying, okay, so let's say I knew I needed to massage this thing. I knew that it would make a positive impact on my sport performance and just general function and decreased pain, but I'm so grossed out just thinking about it. Can we talk about that for a sec?
Disgusting at first until, work through it. Yes. So let's talk about it because it's gross. And acknowledging nasty is an important thing to be like, this doesn't feel great at first. You are going to have to overcome some real hurdles emotionally, physically. It's numb. So it's both an actual sensation, right? Like your nerve endings have been cut through, and there is a physical sensation, but then also the mental component too, because the vast majority of us who had C-sections had some kind of trauma. It was not a calm birth. Most of us, I know there are definitely sometimes C-sections are planned, especially in subsequent C-sections, but most of us, our first C-sections were just like, oh, what's happening? This wasn't my birth plan. You're crying. And there's all of these issues. And is the baby okay? Am I going to be okay? It's,
there's so much.
A lot.
There's so much. There's so much. Okay. So where do you get started, right? It's almost like there's so much on my plate. I don't even know where to start. Now, there's a lot of different ways that we can kind of talk about the sports psychology of rehabilitation. Like, if we look at it from an athlete standpoint, if you say like Jeanette's the coach and I'm the athlete, what kind of coaching gets me? So my background is in rugby. I played rugby for 15 years, right? What will get that new player on that pitch, because she's terrified. She's looking at the other girls out there, they're twice their size, and she's like, oh my God, I'm going to get squashed, right? So I want to play rugby, but how do I even get there? So here's my answer. I just want to first disclose that I am a perinatal therapist. I'm not a mental health expert. So if anybody is listening to this and feels like, honestly, Jeanette, I feel like I need more support than this, please do follow up with a mental health specialist. Okay. So here's what I do with my athletes. We talk about how words matter. So literally Ashley segued into it, and she's like, Jeanette uses the term cesarean birth. I use cesarean birth because I feel that it is such an empowering word. It's the opposite of passive. It's the opposite of something happened to me. It is taking back the fact that you grew a human and you brought it into this world. You
Right.
did that. So words matter. And my first question I often ask, my new athletes that come into, working with me is, tell me the first word that comes to mind when you think about your cesarean birth. What's the first word? And I mean, did anybody share any words with you, Ashley?
Ask for words. I just asked for questions. But if you guys
Okay.
comment, those of you who are listening, what's the first word that comes to mind when you think about your C-section, your C-birth?
Hey, C-section works too, right? Like it's whatever works. People can understand what we're talking about. So you know what?
Traumatic.
Here in hurricane, traumatic is literally the most common word that is shared.
Terrifying.
Yeah, that's common too.
Yeah, traumatic.
Yeah, traumatic.
Yeah, you're mourning so much. You guys are
Grief.
gonna make
Keep coming, everybody. And thank you so much for sharing. I know this can be maybe even the first time that you're thinking about it consciously and sharing these words. So I just want to give recognition to that. And as all these words are coming through and everybody can see this, you might get an emotional reaction going, oh my gosh, like I felt so alone. And look, there's so many other people. Ashley's weeping. Ashley, tell us what you're feeling, Ashley.
There's so many of us in this situation, and oh my god, I didn't plan on crying. This is dumb.
It's not. This is healing.
It's just a lot. You just don't expect it, and you're just, like I said, it's just all these emotions all at once, and to see all these women, like warrior women. Everybody's crying. We're all crying. We're all crying now.
And I want to say crying is that first step of recognizing, bringing the subconscious, bringing everything you've pushed down. Ashley, for you, it's been 7 years. Did you know you still had stuff you had to like let out?
No, and I think just seeing other women feeling the same way, I think it's validating because again, it's so common. People write off C-sections as like, oh yeah, like big deal, you had a C-section. Like 1 in 3 women has it. But for all of us, there was a lot of trauma involved in it. You have no control. And for those of us, I think there's a lot of us who really like to have control over things, and we like things to go as planned, and we walked in there with our birth plans and we had it all mapped out, and here we are just like, next thing you know, like everything's out of your control.
Oops, we kind of blanked out there. A lot of people go into the cesarean birth as some people as planned as they feel they can be.
All right, well, hopefully we all gathered ourselves. Okay, let's see. Sorry, that stinks. Oh my god, what
We
was
crashed
that?
the internet. There was so much love.
Oh my god, I just said, I was like,
So
I hope
powerful.
to gather ourselves to come back. So
Oh, I'm sorry if that was me. I hope everything is all linked up now. Where were we? We were talking about the next steps of what to do. So giving that word, saying that one word, and some of you, that might have been the first time you even consciously thought of that word. And some of you might have felt really guilty or like, oh, I can't even believe that's the first word that came to mind. There was judgment attached to it. And that came from no one else other than yourself.
right.
And that is not me judging you. That is me just shining a light on the fact that, hey, no one's judging you. So let that be. So let it be. And I didn't get to see all the words coming through, but I will share with you some of the words that have been shared with me in the past. Things like the first word that comes to mind about my cesarean birth. Actually, I'm not even going to do it justice. I'm going to read you some of these things because, strength, battle scar, proud, beautiful, resilience, courage, conquered, warrior. And if you thought just for a second, if that was the first word that legitimately is what I would use to describe my incision, my C birth experience, imagine where your headspace would be and how your body would react to being massaged, to the incisional physical manipulation, you know. And I don't think I really need to even answer that question for you, but if you know, if you're in the space of, you know, the trauma and the pain and the shame, which is a very valid experience. I'm not here to devalue any of these things. I'm just saying, can you see the difference if we come at it from a place of fear versus a place of complete acceptance and embracing? Then the ew, gross, oh, I can't even touch that. Oh, it probably will bring it down a couple of notches to at least curiosity. Hey, I wonder what that feels like. Okay, cool. I wondered about it. That's good enough for today. I'm not touching it. Next day, I think I'm going to look at it. Yeah, I wonder what it looks like, right? And then maybe you don't look at it directly. Maybe you have to look at it in a mirror first. And that's totally cool. You know, some of the athletes I work with are like, you know what? I had my partner take a picture of it first. And then I was like brave enough a couple days later to look at it. And I was like, hey, that didn't look half as bad as I thought. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
So it starts with words matter. You start with the words first. And then, you know, I coach my athletes through look and touch. And look and touch as just coming from curiosity, not even therapeutic manipulation of the tissues. That's like, that is second, a far second step. People really don't talk about the mental readiness of healing first, right? I mean, that incision represents so many possibilities perhaps that just weren't. And right. you have to acknowledge that and give that voice. That's part of your healing.
Absolutely. So on the physical side, do you want to talk a little bit about broaching massage, the steps to take to work your way up to it?
Of course, for sure. So just from a physical standpoint, and again, caveat, like this is literally like a 6-month course that I teach, but I do want to share with you how the techniques progress. So that'd be pretty cool to talk about. So if we go back to the incision, by the way, don't forget there's not just the external, there's the internal one. There's 2 internal ones. But we always approach the incision from around the incision. So for the first couple of times, we'd be literally like, hey, cool, I'm curious, what's it feel like? And then maybe days and weeks later, we actually get closer and closer before we're on. Okay, so we always start in the periphery before we get to central. And then the other thing that makes sense, of course, is like you've got 2 incisions. I'm not going to start massaging my deep incision right away. So it is superficial techniques first. And as the weeks and the months go by, our bodies can accept more pressure, more manipulation, different techniques that can actually impact the deeper tissues. And my incisions coming off in my hands. But it's
why you have an open wound. I think that's important. If you're a brand new C-section mom, C-birth mom, wait until you're fully healed to start with any massage. You want to let that close all the way.
For sure. So if I don't know if a question came up, when can you start? Oh, look right here. Yep. Thank you for writing that. How soon after childbirth can you start? So for me, again, every therapist is different. For me, I want to get clearance by your obstetrician first. So usually that's at the 6-week mark, and or 6 weeks after your last infection. So some mamas get infections at like, I don't know, even at 2 months, right? Sometimes you get infections that just, you know, take a long time to heal. So I start direct massage 6 weeks after that has healed. Okay, so just a couple of things to think about. Again, every therapist is different. And then also to kind of answer that question, there's direct massage techniques, which is, you know, getting onto the, you know, the area and actually manipulating the tissue. But there's also indirect techniques, right? So indirect techniques involve things like belly breathing. So I do a lot of coaching on that as well. Like, don't forget movement. When you're moving your body, that's also massage. It's just indirect massage and has huge positive impacts as well.
One of the questions that came up, and I saw somebody just leave it here too, do you have to scar massage forever? Or is there ever a point where you're like, okay, I get to graduate?
Yeah, for sure you get to graduate. So the point of scar massage is to decrease adhesions or stickies. Sorry if you heard that. It's okay. So what happens is when there are adhesions, there's an actual optimal time period to do massage. So the research shows that with scar tissue, you want to make sure that scars heal, of course, like do its job, hold the incision together. But the human body always puts down more scar tissue than it needs. So from about 0 to 6 months, 6 months being kind of the end of the scar tissue formation, you can influence how much scar tissue there is, like how thick, not how thick it is, like how much there is, how extensible it could be, how much it sticks to other healthy tissues around it. So that's kind of the idea of self-massage. Every body is different. So some bodies need more massage. Some bodies go like, oh, hey, after a couple of sessions, and I'm talking about your own, couple of your own self-massages, it's like, oh, I don't even feel restrictions anymore. I actually can do this now with no pain or pulling. I can, you know, go for my walks. I feel no pain or pulling. So, but there is an optimal time period for anyone who's listening. It's 0 to 6 months to manipulate the scar that holds together your incisions. Now, fascial adhesions are different.
What if you're 10 years from your last baby?
So the scar tissue, the scar that holds the incision, is already set at 6 months, but you can totally make a difference in your fascia. So the fascial adhesion, so fascia again is your connective tissue, and it's living and breathing tissue. It's not scar tissue, which is not living and breathing. It's like glue. So living and breathing tissue, you can always make a change. So my question to the athlete will be, of course, this is why we do an assessment. We have to determine as a therapist what is actually causing the pain and the immobility. Mm-hmm. And if it is fascial, then yes, I can totally treat that. And yes, you can totally feel an improvement. If it's the scar and it's past that 6 month mark, the scar is set, but you can still make changes on the tissues around it slowly, slowly. And as you know, Ashley, you know, the body, once you had a baby, you're always postpartum and you're always changing and growing, and you can try different exercises and different techniques.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question. So this kind of segues in about the pooch, you know, the fupa.
Oh, good question.
The C-section shelf. It has many names, many names. And women are like, hello, how do I fix this? So is there a way to fix that, or, you know, what can they do to improve it? I know a lot of it is based on just residual skin that we have. I know we can mobilize the scar to some degree, like you're talking about with our fascia, but
yes,
what do we do about that beautiful little shelf?
And I wish there was like a you know, a medical or like at least a neutral word for the C-section shelf. I don't know. I haven't come across one. I've asked other healthcare practitioners. So for the purposes of argument, we'll call it the C-section shelf. So what causes it, first of all? Because when we know the cause of something, we can treat the cause. Otherwise, what we do to it just is temporary. I actually have I'm not going to talk about the whole thing, but there's a separate video that I have that's about the different causes of a C-section shelf. So maybe I can let you know what that is later on, Ashley, and then maybe we can talk about it. But let's just talk about quickly. So what is a shelf? So when people talk about a C-section shelf, it's when the incision itself is tighter than the tissues around it. What's that?
Do you want me to show a real one?
Do you want to show a real one? If you want to.
Yeah,
sure.
You see, like, so you can see the scars here and the skin, you know.
Yes. So here we go. Ashley's showing how the incision is tighter than the skin above and below. So because there's a differential in the tautness of resting tissue, it looks like something's bulging above and maybe as well below. So that is what we're talking about when we're talking about the C-section shelf. Now, there are reasons for that. So from a physical rehabilitation standpoint, from a mechanical standpoint, if the scar tissue itself heals tight, that's why it can look like that. But of course, there's other reasons, right? Like, what's Ashley's diet? What's Ashley's exercise? What's Ashley's adipose tissue deposit through her own body? How much loose skin does Ashley have? What's her hormonal profile like? Does it change as we go through our menstrual cycles? You know, what's her digestive situation like? What does her diastasis look like? Because it could be a lot of extra, like linea alba looseness, so the opposite of taut, right? So it could be just like there's so many reasons. So part of the assessment with my athletes is I need to see if it's actually a physical, so a musculoskeletal reason for that shell. And if it is, then exercise and manual therapy can probably make a difference. If it's diet related, I'm not that coach that can help them, right? If it's hormonal, they're probably going to have to connect with a naturopathic doctor or their MD, that kind of thing. So
And
that's almost a cop-out answer, isn't it, Ashley?
How big of babies we had, it's like I had 7 and 6 pound babies, and as fit as I get and as great as my fascia gets and as much scar mobility as I do, I feel like going to have a little bit, I have a lot of skin. I stretch in a major way. So, some of it is like we, to some degree, embracing it too, like being proactive with it as much as we can. And then also finding that line where we're like, and we made big babies and we have, some battles.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody is within that 0 to 6 month post cesarean birth range, know that you can make a change in your scar tissue mobility. Like that means how stretchy it is, like how much it moves within reason. Of course, if you've got a keloid scar, infection, etc., there's of course other reasons why this may not be as effective, but self-massage can absolutely get your scar tissue to be more movable, more flexible.
Motivate to do it. I will say this. I didn't even know about it until after the 6-month mark, but when you have, because nobody tells us, because we birth babies and they send us home with a major abdominal surgery and no support. Nobody's telling us anything. Like you go back to your obstetrician at 6 weeks, they're like, you're good, peace out, and so how would we know? I would guess the vast majority of women tuning in to this conversation, like, I'd be curious, did you guys know about scar massage right after birth? Yeah, nobody tells us. So how do we know we can make it better? And we don't. And so then you're playing kind of this game of catch up. It's still worth doing it, I want to say. If the emotional side and the physical side, there's still tons of benefits in doing it, even if you're past that 6-month point. As Jeanette said, you can work on that fascia. So still do it. But oh my gosh, if women knew from 0 to 6 months, like if that was handed to you in a guide when you were leaving the hospital and they said, here, this can really benefit you and make a big difference in your long-term success.
No, it is huge. And Ashley, I do want to say this. What I'm about to say also applies to vaginal birth mamas, pregnant mamas, multiple birth mamas, who have experienced, birth loss. It's so natural for us to be angry at our respective healthcare systems. I'm from the Canadian healthcare system where everyone goes, oh my God, Canada, the land of milk and honey, like what an incredible healthcare system. I got to tell you, it's a reactive healthcare system, which means unless you are dying or have an emergency situation, you're discharged, you're good. Like you're good to go. You're not in the system. So, we can be angry at how our healthcare systems are set up. And we can also take matters into our own hands. How? By getting educated. This is what Ashley is doing. She's educating as many people as possible right now. And you as a listener can also pay it forward. Educate those, go into your Facebook mom groups right after this. Like, link this interview on. Tell them, hey, did you know, right? And I bet you if everybody did that, I think this would be the most impactful healthcare system in the world. It is by word of mouth. It is by moms supporting other moms. And I think it works. So I experienced it too. I was very mad for a very long time about the support that I felt I deserved, I didn't get.
Well, here, if we simply, I'm just throwing this out here in my fantasy land, if we simply gave women, especially C-birth moms, after their birth and said, hey, I'm referring you to a pelvic floor PT. This is your next natural state of care. That would be my hope for every woman, to get to birth and then say, here are your free 2, 3, 4 appointments to go see your pelvic floor PT. And I guarantee you, as a side, and this is not anger, this is just simply pointing out the obvious, if men birth babies and stuff was wrong with their parts after they birth babies, you bet your sweet butt that they would be getting referrals places. That's all I'm going to say. Mic drop.
And until that system changes,
Yes.
I think we can actually do more than we think we can.
Yes.
I don't think we're victims in this situation. I think there's so much we can do by uplifting other moms around us, the moms that come after us, the moms ahead of us. How many of you out there have moms that pee themselves and go, oh, honey, it's because I had 5 of you. And it's like, Ma, you just have a weak pelvic floor. Go like do a couple of exercises. Let me show you. It can get better.
Never said what I do for a living. I always get at, what do you do? And I give my little spiel, my elevator speech. I've never once had a woman respond, oh, they're always like, oh my God, really? Because like I pee and I have back pain and I can't jump and, oh, you know, and the list goes on. I've literally never, I mean, whether it's the grocery store, the park. And so absolutely like talking about it and normalizing it. I don't want to say like normalizing it, like settling, but normalizing it so that we can open the conversation that it can be improved.
Yes, exactly. And knowledge, here's what I always say, knowledge and learning allows us to ask better questions. Our answers will never, like our questions will never be fully answered. It just allows us to keep answering. So if you ask better questions of your physician, and every single one of you listening told, 5 other people and so on and so forth, and every one of those people asked their doctor the same question, hey, why didn't I get X? I bet when they go to their conferences, they're like, oh, my patients are all asking me for more cesarean birth support. And they're like, hey, oh, maybe we should do something about this. And I'm sure it's not because they don't know that they should be doing something about this. I also believe in the Canadian system, I can only speak for the Canadian system, is that it's just not, there's so much other things they need to do to check the boxes on that 6-week checkup postpartum that it's almost like that extra thing. Maybe it's not that they don't want you to get better. Trust me. It's literally, it's not on the list.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So advocate. That is 100% the best thing we can do. Taking matters into our own hands. You have to advocate for yourself as well to get in to see someone. There's so much you can do at home. Does anybody have any other questions? I think we touched on a lot, and I'll definitely share this video. I saved the last video. That's why it took me a little bit to come live again, is I made sure to save it.
Saved it. Amazing, Ashley.
So I will try to actually combine the 2 videos into one video and then post it maybe to IGTV. I'll see what I can do on the tech side of things. That way you got all this information, because it really is important and we really should be talking about it and sharing it and advocating. And I thought this was so powerful today, and just opening the conversation for women that, we don't have to settle and there's help. And definitely follow Jeanette. She's got great tips, great advice, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. You can make big improvements.
Thank you, Ashley, so much for doing your huge part on celebrating Cesarean Awareness Month, because you're doing such incredible work. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Okay. So I will definitely post this. Oh, is that a question before we go? It's more back pain related. Lokra.
Keep these questions going, because once Ashley posts this, if you're cool, just hop onto your platform. I'll answer them on your platform.
Yeah.
Post it underneath the IGTV once it's up, or DM me. This is not the end of our conversation.
Sounds great. Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of you. Take care.